If you look into the annals of YouTube, you may find what has been heralded as the best video of all time. Titled Donkey Kong, the story you already knew, it was created by 4 sexpots known as Treesicle, and in spite of the title, it was a story you certainly didn't know. However, one might say there was more to that story, and one might be right. Or are they? In its history, video games have gone from being underground to becoming professional sports, from being looked at as a toy for little boys to one of the highest grossing entertainment industries in history. How did it turn out this way? Well, you're going to find out. But before I dump hot knowledge all over your face and neck and chest, let us first shamelessly plug a video we recently put out called Sonic vs. Mario: The Real Truth. In this video, Ryan beautifully articulated the curation of an intellectual property known simply as Diddle. I mean Donkey Kong. An arcade game about some kinky interspecies sexcapades and an extremely convoluted architectural structure. A game that, when looked back upon, now seems, well, kind of boring. However, it and its star villain may have changed the face of not only video games, but the entire world. Or just video games. One monkey, actually it was a couple of monkeys, a Japanese man, and an international toy business, was tied to the fate of millions since before Jesus was putting the ham to good old Mary M back in South Central Jerusalem. What the hell am I talking about? I don't even know anymore. I was just hanging out back with good old Shigeru Miyamoto, and he told me he'd show me how he came up with this crap in the first place, and I was like, rad, and then some stuff got a little weird, and I should probably go lie down. Anyway, Donkey Kong is a swole monkey with a storied past, and he's more important to everything than you ever imagined. So sit back, relax, drop trowel like no one's around, and crack a cold apple juice like it's Friday and you ain't got no plans. And prepare yourself for a historical perspective on the greatest of apes, the coolest of Kongs, and what he did to really mess things up for Nintendo. This is the story of Donkey Kong, the other story you didn't know. That just doesn't sound right. The story you never knew again. Fuck it, the first one was just a meme anyway. The story you never knew. Okay. The original arcade cabinet for Donkey Kong was released into the wild in 1981, and quickly became one of the most popular video games ever. Back then, DK was a bad apple. Yes, I said it, and Tyler laughed, so go ahead and leave your mean comment. You don't understand comedy! He had kidnapped a lady named Pauline, which royally pissed off Jumpman, who went back to get her. It's said that DK and Jumpman were friends before this, but that really doesn't matter. The game sold like crazy and had kids spending their lunch money in the arcade for years. Naturally, a sequel was needed to keep that sweet revenue stream buying Nintendo execs personal jets. So in 1982, the company released Donkey Kong Jr., which also did very well. This game starred Jr. He had to rescue DK from Jumpman, who kidnapped him or something. Real role reversal here. Then in 1983 came Donkey Kong 3, which starred some rando named Stanley who was upset that Donkey Kong is hiding in his greenhouse and pissing off the bugs. Video games were different back then. There wasn't always a plot, and if there was, it was only used to give you some context of what you were doing. All of these games were ported all over the place and were extremely popular for the time. But after DK3, we didn't see our monkey friend for a while. So let us jump man ahead to 1994, the year of the donkey, the year the Kongs came back, and they came back hard. Donkey Kong Country was released for the Super Nintendo in 1994 and blew everyone's brains out of their ears. The franchise had been picked up by a British company named Rare and was totally 100% revamped into something entirely new, as well as something no one had ever seen before. The Super Nintendo was a powerhouse graphically when it came out, but quick advancements in technology had it looking not so cool pretty quick, especially in 1994. To fight this, Nintendo came out with the Super FX chip, which you can see working here in Star Fox to render 3D polygonal shapes. Star Fox was actually a mind-blowing graphical leap for the time period. But then we got DKC. Rare wanted to make a game that was as beautiful as it could possibly be on the SNES's limited hardware, so they did something ridiculous. Rare created a technique called advanced computer modeling through the use of silicon graphics workstations, which were basically super supercomputers at the time. They modeled and created the sprites for games in 3D and did some software wizardry by creating their own compression technique to allot for more texture and animation than previously capable on the Super Nintendo. This was a huge financial risk for Rare. To give you an idea, each workstation cost about $143,000 adjusted for region and inflation. But it worked. It paid off. And with the fluid, almost flawless gameplay, amazing score, and graphics like no one had ever seen, DKC became the third best-selling game on the SNES and is still considered one of the best games of all time according to many games media outlets. It starred Donkey Kong Jr. That's right, the DK we know and love is actually Donkey Kong Jr. This is Donkey Kong. The years have not been kind. Along with his little buddy Diddy, he's out to save his giant banana horde from the vile King K. Rool and his army of Kremlings. But who cares? I could make a theory and tell you how DK is a jungle mob boss who hoards bananas and makes island critters pay him protection. Or that he's an island deity and the bananas represent the fruit of life, which he must protect from the Satan figure K. Rool. But that'd be silly. Instead, what if I told you something more mind-blowing? Something that really, truly matters. What if I told you Donkey Kong is responsible for the modern gaming industry in more ways than you can imagine? I mean, I already told you that earlier, but move over Pac-Man, there's a new pioneer in the video game sphere industry. We'll go with industry. BAM! The original Donkey Kong arcade cabinet was what truly put Nintendo on the map. Before entering the world of video games, Nintendo was a toy company, particularly specializing in playing cards. In the late 1970s, they began trying out video games, and they, well, sucked. Most of them were clones of other popular games like Pac-Man and Space Invaders. But when Shigeru Miyamoto created Donkey Kong, Nintendo finally realized their true potential as a video game powerhouse. At the time, the home console market was occupied by companies like Atari, Coleco, Intellivision, and a million other offshoots and knockoffs of varying quality. In 1983, the Japanese Nintendo Famicom launched, and along with it, a port of Donkey Kong, one of the first home Nintendo games. At the same time, the console market crashed in the USA, creating a hole for someone to fill. That someone was Nintendo, and most importantly, Mario, a Donkey Kong character renamed and repurposed after the initial arcade cabinet. In 1985 through 1986, the Nintendo Entertainment System ruled the American home console market with little to no competition due to the success of Donkey Kong and its spin-off titles, including Mario. Donkey Kong was soon ported, making Nintendo an additional $69 million, $170 million adjusted today. But that's not it. Not even close. Shortly after the rise of Nintendo and the failure of its first mass-market home console, the Master System, Sega churned out its 16-bit Genesis Mega Drive, boasting more power and better graphic fidelity than the NES. A competitive move which didn't really work. It wasn't until the early 90s when Sega created Sonic to compete with Mario that the Genesis started to take off, creating a competitive and healthy market for video games. At the same time, Atari, Panasonic, Pioneer, Philips, and many others were either entering the market or trying their damnedest to get a foot in, all because of how much media attention was going to Nintendo and Sega's little war over bits and graphics. However, in the background, what could have been a monumental partnership was already underway and should have produced the most dominating game console of all time. In 1988, after talks of creating a brand new CD-based console, Nintendo and Sony signed a contract to create a CD add-on to the Super Nintendo, called the PlayStation. However, the contract was apparently not what Nintendo was looking for. A notoriously closed-doors intercontained company, Nintendo had entered an agreement giving Sony a large amount of control over software licensing for their new peripheral. So, Nintendo of America secretly struck a deal with Philips during a business trip to Europe, cutting Sony out of the picture. In June of 1991, at the Consumer Electronics Show, Sony revealed the Nintendo PlayStation. The next day, Nintendo revealed they were working with Philips and not Sony. This did not go over well at all. Historically, it was the stupidest thing Nintendo has ever done besides not making a new Animal Crossing game yet. This contract break created the worst rival the company could possibly have. And instead of finding another company to side with, Sony simply took the PlayStation and made it their own console, making an absurd amount of money and splitting the market into 3. Oh, and the Philips deal Nintendo made didn't go over so well in the end.
You've got to be kidding.
In this new era of the console wars, the PlayStation sold 3 times more than the Nintendo 64. Not the best for Nintendo. And Sega, well, Sega had one foot in the grave. But then something seemingly awesome happened for Sega fans. The company partnered with Microsoft? Yes, in 1998, Microsoft announced that it would be partnering with Sega to collaborate as a development tool for their upcoming Dreamcast system, allowing anyone to use good old Microsoft CE to create games on the console. Except no one did. Well, almost no one. Few enough for it not to matter. However, what this did was allow Microsoft the opportunity to take a look into the console world, learn the ins and outs, take that knowledge, and replace Sega. The rest is history. All of this may seem off topic, but what's important to know is that all of these juicy businessy happenings were the initial drama that made the video game industry what it is today. I can't believe I just used the word drama. All of this happened because of one silly game starring one silly character, Donkey Kong. If it wasn't for the money, the press, and most importantly, the actual quality of the first Donkey Kong arcade game, Nintendo probably wouldn't have created the Famicom, and definitely not the NES. Without the NES, Sega may have never been able to get a foothold in the console market in America because it was almost completely dead due to many mistakes made by Atari and others. Without Sega, we wouldn't have Sonic, or more importantly, Crazy Taxi. If there was no Sega, it's unlikely there would have been an Xbox. If it wasn't for Nintendo, there would simply be no PlayStation. This one monkey knocked over a series of dominoes and created a million worlds for us to play in, jobs and careers for people like myself and the rest of the Treesicle Team. It is because of Donkey Kong that some dude called you a pussy on Call of Duty in 2008, and why you can play Overwatch on PS4 to avoid the cancerous PC community. Despite many changes to style and format, this character is clearly beloved and appreciated by Nintendo and fans alike, due to the fact that he has appeared on every single Nintendo console created and sells well too. So next time you boot up God of War, or whatever horrible first-party game the Xbox One has, remember to thank DK for making it possible to play that shit. Unless you're an elitist PC master racer? I don't know if DK had an effect on you at all. Anyway, that's the story of Nintendo breaking down the door into America, of graphics that revolutionized and lended further credibility to video games as art. That's the story of the video game industry, and how DK helped spark it all. That's the story you never knew. And that's my take on Donkey Kong. I know we usually go into some metaphysical, psycho-philosophical shenanigans in these videos, but sometimes straight facts, history, and drawing a line between them can be just as mind-blowing. I think it's incredible how one silly little game could snowball into creating one of the highest-grossing entertainment industries in the world. Who knows? Without DK, it's possible there could be a lot more arcades still around. Just another fun thing to chew on there. And speaking of chewing on things, I've got a sweet chunk of info for you. Did you know that this video, the one you're watching right now, is sponsored by Swagbucks? You do now! Swagbucks lets you earn extra cash and gift cards to anywhere from Target to Walmart. And you make that sweet dough just by doing normal stuff you do online every day. Playing games, watching videos, shopping online, taking surveys. They all get you points, and points get you rewards for your wallet. So check it out and you won't be disappointed. Plus, everyone who signs up gets a $5 sign-up bonus. Just click the link in the description and start earning extra moolah and gift cards while doing what you normally do. It's that easy. And of course, thanks to Swagbucks for sponsoring this video. It's because of kick-ass sponsors like them who support the channel that we're able to make the high-quality, time-intensive content that we do. So click on that link in the description, make some money, and support us in the process. Whew! DK, free money, free gift cards, that's a hell of a video, guys. I think I'm all out of juice for today. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!